So we're going to call the public hearing for the brewery lounge endorsement application for the Three Ranges Brewing Company. The public hearing goes like this. First, the corporate officer will provide an overview of the application. Second, all the letters that we received from the public will be briefly summarized, and more written comments may be submitted at this time if they're there. Then we'll get into comments from the public. Following the public hearing tonight, the village will receive further comment until March 11th?
Yes.
Okay. And then at the March 11th, 2014 regular council meeting, which is just the next one, council will consider the issue of the brewery lounge endorsement application in detail and pass a resolution in that regard. So this won't be dealt with tonight. What will be dealt with is hearing from the public. So we'll begin with an overview of the application.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. The Three Ranges Brewing Company at 1160 A and B, 5th Avenue, has applied for a brewery lounge endorsement, and a summary of that application went to council at the last meeting, so I think all council's familiar with it. In summary though, it requests approval for lounge and a patio on the facility for up to 52 persons on site, 53, 32 inside the lounge and then the remainder on the patio. Proposed hours are 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and that is it in a nutshell, actually. The reason why we're holding the public hearing tonight and not on March 11th when it will go to council for final resolution is because the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch requires quite a lengthy and very formal resolution, a lot of whereas in their force, and that will likely need to be crafted beforehand based on all the public feedback and provided to council as a recommended resolution. And so we wanted to give staff 2 weeks time to think that through and have the comments trickle in. We just had one letter of support come in, no phone calls or other letters. This one's from Irene Nunweiler of Robson Valley Internet. And she's just thanking us for the opportunity to comment on the application for the Three Ranges Brewing Company's lounge and patio area. And she believes it would be a nice addition to the downtown area. The owners are responsible citizens who will do everything to keep the pub as a family-friendly destination. They have a great product, and judging from their opening day, she believes that they will have great support within the community as well.
Okay, great. So that's the totality of the written comments that we received. And now we'd like to hear comments from the public. So there's a couple pieces we'll use. Yeah.
Gord has set up the mic at the podium.
Right.
If the public is comment, he's asked that they go there.
Okay, right. So there's a mic set up at the podium and we'd like you to go there if you're gonna say your piece. And if you can give us your name and address. And just speak to the matters at hand.
And just to build on that from the provincial standpoint, the province welcomes all comments, but they seriously take into account those who are within 0.8 kilometers proximity. It's a special requirement of the branch. But come one and all.
Dr. Bergen, please approach the mic.
Corey.
That's okay. Yeah.
Corey Bergen, 1290 14th Avenue. Just to clarify, where does 800 meters from the brewery? Is that the entire town? Okay. And I'd like to throw my full and total support behind this project as a total unbiased person in town.
Thanks. Totally unbiased. Thank you, Corey. Okay. Further comments from the public?
Clayton G at 1200 Juniper Street. My family moved to Valemount in the 70s, and even then I remember as a kid people talking about how good the water here was here and how a brewery would go over very well. Now we have a brewery. It isn't much good unless people are drinking the beer, so I support having a lounge at the brewery so people can drink the beer. Thanks.
I'm just going to interject here. Yeah, please come up to the mic. Yeah. And we encourage people to speak for or against without fear or favor, and we try to keep it, I just didn't mention this before, but refrain from applause or expressions of emotion because we want all sides to be held in this. It's important that we get all sides.
Sharon Hoy, 1180 Cypress Road, so we don't live in town, but we do naturally support the town, and I think it would be a great asset to the downtown core, you know, or even people coming in off the highway if they knew it was there. We do enjoy going down, and we were a little surprised when we were limited to a beer. Not that we want to sit there all night, but you know, it's too bad he's regulated by that right now, and I think the lounge and the patio would really help with that. Thanks.
Josh Dennis, we live out on Bunbury Road, so also outside of the township. But we also support Valemount, obviously, and do all of our shopping and everything else here. And again, they are good people who are running the brewery and helping at the brewery. And I think it is definitely going to help the community to have this available. And it is, a lot of people will go in there and be disappointed because they can't stay for more than one beer. And it's not a place in general where people are gonna go and drink heavily all night. It's more of a family atmosphere to where you can go and have maybe 2 nice beers and then get a growler and go home. So yeah, definitely support the brewery in Valemount.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm not going to beg. Any further public comments? And for a third time, any comments from the public? Okay. So council's going to reserve our discussion on the public comment and what's before us until the March 11th regular council meeting. So that means you folks need to come back. That one. That brings us to the end. Thank you for your comments, and I declare the meeting adjourned. Okay. So we'll call the regular council meeting of the Village of Valemount to order. The vision of the Village of Valemount is striving for a vibrant and balanced community. And it's our mission to serve the community and embrace opportunity. The first item, I'll ask for help from councillors, is the adoption of the agenda. We can all participate in that. Any additions or deletions? With none, let's get a mover and a shaker. Councillor Bullock, Councillor Salt, all in favor? Great. The minutes of the February 11th regular meeting of council. Councillor Latimer, Councillor Blanchette, and all in favor. Any changes? Well, I'll just say any changes here because sometimes we have those. Okay, all in favor? Great. Moving on to the minutes of the February 11th public hearing for official community plan amendment bylaw number 711/2014 and zoning bylaw amendment 712. Councillor Blanchette, I thought I saw a hand. Councillor Latimer, and all in favor? Great. No delegations tonight. Unfinished business. We'll move to correspondence for action.
I'm going to step out since I work for the library and also because I'm a board member for VCTV.
Okay, 2 items. There you go. All right. So, item 6.1 is the Valemount Public Library is asking for a letter of support. Fairly substantive piece. I'm just going to read out the letter. This is a kind of an important piece, if you guys don't mind, though. The Valemount Public Library has secured funding through Columbia Basin Community Initiatives Program and has contracted an engineer to design building plans for an expansion of the library building. Phase 2 of the plans will be completed this week. The library received a letter of support and approval in principle from council 2 years ago. We are requesting an updated letter as recommended at a recent grants workshop in order to show support when applying for funding, for the building phase of the project. We believe this is a very worthwhile project, one that will be an asset and will benefit the whole community. Thank you for your consideration of this request. The recommendation is that council consider the Valemount Public Library's request for a letter of support. Yeah, so let's have a conversation. Let's do our council thing about this.
I support it.
I as well.
Okay.
They've done a lot of work to date to get them to this point. Previous councils and this council have supported them in their endeavor up to this point, so I don't see why we would change that now.
Great. Okay.
It's definitely an asset to the community.
So I have a slightly different take on this request, and I've sort of voiced some of those pieces before. Essentially, the library belongs to the village of Valemount. It's our piece of infrastructure. And I understand that the library is requesting to build onto that piece. My feeling is that when you're Noah and it starts to rain and you got the message from God that things are changing, you don't build a library, you build an ark. You build something that helps you in your current circumstance. Very recently, we've just seen a small turnaround in the elementary school population. But folks, we've got a lot of public buildings, and we have less people than ever in our community. We've got a high school that recently unfunded 3 teachers because of lack of students. To me, building a public library at this time, expanding the public library, is completely wrong-headed. It is absolutely right for the library. They deserve it. It's the right thing to do. They've been a great organization and they've served us really well. Does expanding the public library take us around the corner to where we can be certain of Valemount's future and success? I'd say that it doesn't. I'd say that it actually does the opposite. It doesn't harden the community. It actually weakens it. We increase, I'm going to go with fourfold because I have not seen the numbers from the group, the operating expenses of the heat, of the light, of the electricity. I appreciate that it has council support, but I think certainly we're in a different position than just the supporters of an unconnected nonprofit. This is a building that, like it or not, we will own. Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with this thing.
Can I have a comment? Because I know, I remember the comments that you made the last time this came around, and I'm just wondering if you managed to approach the library to give them that opinion beforehand, instead of being the naysayer when it comes to the council meeting. If there was an opportunity to give your perspective to them and see how they would work with it.
You know, it's pretty unfortunate that the library, who's essentially asking for $1 million for this library expansion, is not here tonight. That's tough. I did go to the library. I went and met with the library board in the library and said, this has nothing to do with Valemount's economic success right now. And I hate to be that guy who's talking economics because I'm a community guy. I'm about community service and building a thriving community. But I also see the way of peril. I also see the way of a decadent society is one that's building things that they don't really need when things are looking down. We lost a mill. That library served this community when we had 200 more people. When the average salary in this town, I'm guessing would have been 1.5 times higher than it was now. Hundreds of kids have left this community. Hundreds of people have left this community. Who is the library for?
Do you know the statistics of the children under 6 years old that are in the community right now? Because it's a startling number. And I'm just curious about how this would not be an asset to the village to have a newer building built, to be able to entice for some of these families to stay by having that facility, and maybe to approach it if utilities are going up, if water goes up, to broach that conversation of how the village is going to deal with that, instead of, you know, killing it in the water now, find ways to work around it in the future.
I don't think okay. Well, when we did our analysis as a council, we set up a strategic plan. That strategic plan did not include building a new library. It didn't make the list. And why?
When talking about the strategic plan, though, how many things came across our desk in the last 2 years that were not on the strategic plan that staff gave valuable time to look at?
And yet we knew about this one from the outset. I had a conversation with the library, and here's my conversation, I'll share it with you. The library, I actually went there and begged them, I said, let's make this project a part of Valemount's economic success. Let's make this a public building downtown that can be multi-use. We can offset the cost of building it by having some sort of other enterprise there. Move it downtown, let's make it efficient. Let's focus on building a building. Yes, let's invest the $1 million or whatever it takes, but at least let's promise the people of Valemount that operating expenses are going down and that we've got some smart solutions going forward. What I heard from the library was a completely unsatisfactory answer, is that we've started this already and we don't want to go back. And the time that when the project was started, it actually started a long time ago. I bet the mill was probably running when the idea was first floated, because apparently this has been in the works for a very long time. I don't want to devalue the library. I don't want to devalue the work that the library board is doing. But fundamentally, growing a building that amount of size, I have real questions about what the use of the new space is. How does it interface with the Valemount Learning Center? Like, I understand that the library is one thing and the school is another thing, but they both got rooms with books in them. So I look at this proposal and I do not support it. I don't think it's smart enough. I don't think it's smart enough for a community that I'm going to say is struggling. Yes, we see signs of life and things on the forward, but that's when you guard your chips the most.
I don't know. It's hard because I have personal experience with it, and I know what it's like to have 20 kids in the basement of a concrete floor doing yoga or whatever activity in the middle of winter. It's not a suitable space for...
How can we have this letter of support, this request for a letter of support, without even having attached to it the results of the survey that was done? I mean, I'm completely in the dark with this. I had no idea that this was coming. I was shocked, frankly, on Friday when I screened this. It's like suddenly, I know it's been in the works, but I haven't seen the results of this study. I was hoping to.
You haven't received the results from the library. I believe they've sent them out. And our chief administrative officer has been invited to other meetings since then.
Yeah.
So what meeting are you referring to that you met with the board? Is that the one that council were in attendance at too? And that was like almost a year ago?
Yeah.
Well, they did explore. They did everything that you've asked them to do. They explored downtown options. Mm-hmm. They explored empty buildings. So why are you fighting this so hard? 3 of us have said support. Isn't that a quorum right there to say this is being passed?
Absolutely.
Do you want to be noted in the minutes that you...
I would absolutely like this. I think we differ, and I think it's important how we differ. And I am not afraid to say these things, and I'm not afraid to piss off the library board in spite of their good work and the great things that they do to this community. I just want to bring it up that I don't support this. I think it's the wrong way. And people should know that. People should know that I'm not for. Yeah. Anyway,
People should-
it's not about me though, but in the, just in due process, I wanted to bring up these points.
May I also speak again? I'd like to make a point too, that they're not asking the village for $1 million to build the library expansion. That's all gonna be through grant funding. Yes, essentially it will end up being village building, but they're not asking the taxpayers to pay for it. They're not asking it to come from the village.
Yeah. And there's a question that we have to ask ourselves. We know we own so much property, is what does it cost to build and what does it cost to maintain? And I haven't seen any commitment to low-cost alternative energy, to the green building. I haven't seen that side of it. All right, that's my piece. But I think in deference to council, we've heard, yep.
Have you talked to the board since almost a year ago? Have you personally talked to them?
Has the board come to me? No.
So you want them to come to you every time?
Every time they ask for $1 million, yes.
But they're not asking the village for $1 million.
We're raising $1 million in this community. I mean, we all know what that means.
I'm just saying, you know, you're saying one thing, but it just seems like it's your side and then another side. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. They're asking for a letter of support.
But the letter of support implies...
They asked for a letter of support 2 years ago, and look where they've gotten in 2 years. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight.
Right.
They have real challenges getting the funding, and if they don't get the funding to build it, it won't get built.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe in 2 years they get the funding and our community is thriving again. That's what we're working for.
What I would love to see, and it's a principle that I think we all often try to do in Valemount, is that we try to say, okay, we need this, and we need this, and how do we bring it all together, right? And there's that component, I guess. I have a particular vision of that, you know, and everybody's different. There's a particular vision of that I see here where there might be some synergies in other things, but that's one person's view. Again, I have to say that I think the library is just a fantastic organization. It does vital work. They're connected with parents. Yeah, but at the same time, the expansion of the library is something that makes me feel we'll end up with a community that's further stretched out and less durable. But that's a lot. Other councillors, Councillor Bullock, Councillor Latimer?
Well, I just remember the meeting that we did have over a year ago, and it was positive for the most part, and they're very passionate about what they do for the community, and it's not just for the kids, it's for, you know, it's for all ages.
Yes.
And I do remember also that it didn't end up very positive. And I haven't heard of any meetings that all of council was invited to after that. So, but I'm still in support to support them with this letter.
Yeah, obviously there's other opportunities that we can pursue to collaborate, to be able to, because I know, like it happened last time, a council meeting comes, an opinion is stated, and all of a sudden it's everywhere that you're dead against everything. And I think that, you know, if it's passionate, if you're passionate about it not being a great idea, that they would be a good group to continue to pursue, to have further conversation. And on the other hand, maybe it's a good idea to have some statistics to see what a tax burden it would be, what the increase of utilities would be, what does it roll out, what does it look like to the village if $1 million library expansion happened. Just so for our peace of mind, we have an understanding of what the dollars and cents are, because of course that's felt throughout the entire community, not just council and not just the library supporters.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate all the conversation, but I'm still in full support.
And I'll just make a note. I mean, some of the things that sometimes we get caught up in the details of what's before us. Recently, we went through the budget approval at the regional district for the I'm going to get in real trouble with everybody for this one. But I just want to say sometimes we unthinkingly take on huge expenses that are big, and I'll just say that the operating expenses of the the Canoe Valley Arena, another great group doing fabulous things. You know, rings in at about $800,000 a year. So it's just keeping track of all of it and accounting for it. And sometimes great ideas come up that are awesome. But I guess the question is, how do we build a really sustainable community that's going to last in the future?
Yeah, and I support that vision as well. And it would just be nice to, you know, hear maybe an update from the library if it's been a year. You know, I don't think it's a bad thing to ask.
That'd be great. Should let's deal with this one, and then maybe we can ask the library board to come and present.
I'd love that.
Okay, so all in favor of, we'll get a mover and a seconder for writing a letter of support for the Valemount Public Library. Okay. Councillor Latimer, Councillor Bullock, all in favor? Okay. And a motion, I'll move that we have the Valemount Public Library board come in and give us a update. Okay. Councillor Bullock, all in favor? Okay. Next item, 6.2, VCTV letter of support. She's actually on the board of directors, so she's off that one too. So VCTV has asked for a letter of support to buy a bunch of equipment for this room to make us look more beautiful. To do a better job of this and to help manage the considerable work involved in filming us here. Council, what's your sense on this?
I just have is it possible to have other things televised in here if it was necessary? Like, would this give the opportunity for council chambers to be, I mean, is it just for Tuesday night meetings? I'm curious if.
I know, don't you feel bashful? I think it is just for,
yeah.
It is for.
I could probably take a stick of lipstick and be done, right? So I'm just.
I guess, I mean, I'll just point out that there are some considerations for the audience who attend. That is, the idea is having amplified audio. I'll give you a run through of, just get everybody on the same page, because I see that people don't have their computers out. The grant is really to make this room easier to see us and hear us, and it includes an amplified system into the public gallery, which require microphones, a mixer, speakers in the ceiling, LED lights, and some electrical cabling and labor.
So when we do have we have functions in this area with speakers and open meetings in so many ways. Borealis has come in here, and so would it be like Councillor Bullock said, would it be an opportunity for VCTV to be able to broadcast them? It's a very honest question for sure. I mean, if it's gonna,
I don't need $12,000 of improvement. You know,
I would assume so. Given that Gord is here, he could probably answer that question better himself.
Well, we have the proponent here, the person that's asking for the letter of support. Why don't we put it to him?
Your Worship, anything can be televised from this room. If you're doing a presentation such as Borealis, it would have to be in that area because the lights will be, and the microphones will be positioned in a fixed, semicircle as they are now. But if anything is in that particular area, it can certainly be televised.
Okay, thank you. You know what, I think there's a kind of a sneaky way out of this. I'm not sure if you want to do that approach. I would hate, for Gord's sake, to put the nail in the coffin on this one, because I know it's he does a lot of work in here, and every council meeting he's in here setting up and whatever. So right now the amount of work for Gord is not minimal. But what I was thinking was, why don't we give a letter of support contingent on support from the community in the CIP process, which is kind of non-whatever, but we'll just say, like, if that's something that people value and they want to give that a 10 out of 10 and that's important for them, is that kind of quasi-illegal or?
No.
No, it's good.
Your Worship, I was going to say too, there are different components to this application. So if Councillor Bullock is say, less supportive of the lighting that simply enhances the look, you could still consider the audio portion as opposed to the light. They're separate
That is a good idea.
I know, but I don't want to pick apart somebody's application on my, because I don't feel something's necessary. I do support VCTV and becoming even better than what they are today. So if those are the right tools for his job. Okay.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we put out, I move that we provide a letter of support and just write into it that if the community supports this through the CIP process, we'd be comfortable with it. Yeah. All right. So Dallas seconded it. Councillor Bullock, rather. And all in favor? Okay, now that'd be great if you could. Yeah. What's the consensus in the gallery? Is it hot or cold in here?
Just right now.
Warmer than usual. But just right, Sal?
Just right.
Oh.
Maybe it's the lights.
Yeah, it's just the mention of the lighting is making it hot.
LEDs are cooler.
Good.
Okay, so we'll move to the reading file. Anything that people wanted to pick up out of here?
Not today.
Oh, Councillor Salt?
I think it's great. We got notice from Northern Development Initiative Trust that our application for the business facade improvement has been approved. So that's great news for local businesses to be able to apply for its, I think, matching. They can get matching funding.
50% funding
for business facade improvements. So this is great news that we got that. So any businesses that are hoping to do some improvements to the look and feel of their front of their businesses, notify the village office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be working with the Chamber of Commerce and asking the Chamber to administer the grant.
Great.
We'll put together a process. So.
Okay, excellent. Great, so let's, if there's no more in the reading file, let's move receipt. Councillor Bullock, Councillor Salt, all in favor? Great. Moving on to administrator reports. We have a report on the Valemount Community Foundations Fund Program Report. This is a really interesting item that was probably put into motion, I'd say 8 years ago.
No.
You have the details on it.
2008.
Really, that recently?
2008, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, just before the economic downturn. They got a year of really great interest rates before the economic downturn.
Okay, anyways, do you want to, yeah, we've got a big long, okay.
I want to make a clarification
Yeah.
to the recommendation, by the way, Your Worship. It was quickly crafted and is a little bit incorrect. That council, we'd not be asking for council to approve staff to establish a standing committee. We'd be asking council to approve staff to advertise for a standing committee. The appointment of that committee is council's responsibility.
Okay. So let's give a brief overview about what this foundation fund is and is not, because we're mentioning it and there's going to be a slew of questions out there in the community and they're wondering how did this happen, and yeah.
It's a project in conjunction with the PG, Prince George Foundation Fund, meaning that the investment is coordinated together with theirs to maximize returns. The contributions were from CBT, the Village of Valemount.
And NDIT.
Thank you. Sorry, I drew a blank there for a minute.
No.
And a $50,000 contribution from each party. That contribution has accrued interest and is now available for granting. There are a number of parameters and guidelines and regulations for community foundations funds. So there's a branch of the PG Foundation that would act as a resource. There's a toolkit that comes with this in establishing this this committee, but this committee needs a degree of commitment as well, because there's a lot more to it than simply a one-year cyclical or whatever that cycle happens to be of grant awarding. It's marketing the funds, and it's establishing the grant cycles and the grant criteria and managing that whole piece. So you need a committed committee that understands the needs of the community and is willing to devote their energies to that.
Excellent.
Okay. I do have a slew of questions. So would this end up by being a committee of council?
No.
Okay. And so the guidelines would then be directed from Prince George? Like as in how many people, for how long?
No, that would be established by council.
Okay.
It's an arm's length committee.
Okay. So we'd establish the rules and regulations of the council. That's not a council of, or committee of council. Okay.
But there are certain parameters. The idea is that this is not a slush fund for council to do municipal projects.
Right.
It is pretty well laid out. If people know about other community foundations, they'll probably be familiar with this if you start thinking about the Prince George Community Foundation or other ones. Their goal is to essentially gather money from enough sources. Sometimes it's bequests from people who've passed, or they're bequeathed by people who pass away, and other items, and they serve to do, maybe seen as a little bit of an overlap with the CIP program. Sometimes they help nonprofit organizations or people who are in need or doing sporting things or things like that, right? So this kind of piece. It's interesting. It's certainly that it was established by the previous council. I can tell you, I covered that as a journalist back in the day. I think the lead up to it, if it was only 2008, that it was established in, I must have just got the beginning of it before it actually happened. But the rigor of that investment really keeps, it's not something where we can say, well, we don't want to do that anymore. Let's take our 200,000 and play and do something else with it. It's not that kind of thing. So I know probably people are thinking, like, let's not do a tax increase. Let's do the community,
right.
Cannibalize this thing. Actually, it's like
for the community.
It's tight. Yeah. You're not going to be able to do that.
I think it was established with the intent of having our own self-sustained granting program, because we don't know that CBT will be around forever in perpetuity, right? So it was a way that our community could establish a fund of our own to do some of our own granting and hopefully grow it as well. So it was so that we would also have a self-sustaining fund for granting out to nonprofit organizations in the community for the improvement of the community.
Which is good. Yeah, super.
Cool.
Love it.
Further questions or comments? Okay, so I'll put forward the Anne's amended recommendation there that we approve staff to advertise for a standing committee of citizens to develop and administer the Valemount Community Foundation's grant program. Councillor Latimer, and all in favor? Great. Okay, Public Works, Building Inspector, bylaw. Financial report. We have accounts payable for January 2014, pages 31 to 35. We need receipt on this. Who volunteers? Councillor Bullock, Councillor Latimer. All in favor of receipt. Great. We have a monthly progress report from January 2014. Motion to receive. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Latimer. All in favor. Okay. We have 13.3 snow removal report, which outlines the budget implications of snow removal. Do we have a mover to receive that? Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Salt. All in favor? Great. Okay, moving on to bylaws and policies. Pages 40 to 62 deal with the development variance permit 0114, parking for the Three Rangers Brewing Company. And the staff recommendation is that council authorizes staff to prepare the draft permit and to notify the public of council's intention to issue the permit. just 22 pages of light reading. Yeah.
I'll make a motion just to put it on the floor to talk
Okay.
about it.
Oh, hey, all right. The seconder to just, yeah, we're sort of receiving for information and discussion? Or you want to put it on the floor?
For discussion.
The actual, that we authorize staff to prepare? Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
put it on the table for discussion.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, let's have a discussion.
It's a tough one, really tough. Financially difficult to make the decision. As far as the benefit to the community, it's not difficult to make the decision at all. And where we stand today as a community, it makes enough sense.
Again, would this go through a public hearing process? It wouldn't. And I think we need to be able to have the opportunity for the public to provide input some way, other than just, stopping me on the street saying, you got to make sure they do that.
Can I speak to that?
Well, let's let Councillor
I'm just
finish.
wondering if there is an avenue or a way that can be done.
Absolutely. So it's a development variance permit application. And so what that means is that letters are sent to all surrounding property owners and tenants, who then have the opportunity to provide comment before it goes to council. And there's timelines for those letters to go out that are set by the Local Government Act. And for all development variance permits, we have to hit those. So that public comment piece is built into this permit process. And it's correlated with the application fee that the proponent pays based on the scope of the public comment that's required.
Okay, that's good to know, yeah. Yeah, I'll just note a very difficult piece in this is that our implementation of our rather rigorous parking standards has not been consistent. And that's not this council, but this is something that we sort of inherited, where we had, in fact, one council create very rigorous rules around that, and another council sort of speak to those but not enforce them. And then so we're sort of left holding the bag. It cuts both ways here. One is we don't want to set people up to have zero expectation for parking. That's true. We also don't want to suddenly start enforcing the rules when two almost adjacent properties kind of wiggled through there without that. Am I on the right subject here? Are we basically, yeah, a political version of, so we've talked about this a little bit. I think I'd like to move forward with this in our whole, embrace opportunity bit. I also, because I think there's something to be said for, we are creating rules, they do stretch out into the future and they have future implications, but we also exist in a time and place, right, under certain conditions. And I think right now, we see the need to encourage business and whatever. I don't think it's wrong necessarily to do that. But I think the necessary follow-up for this is that we need to have a discussion about what successful downtowns look like and how parking works there. And that'll be an interesting one. The downtown that I like Fernie or Nelson, is one actually where it's best not to bring a car. It's thriving. It's shops in the bottom and shops in the top floor and all sorts of stuff going on the street and whatever. And I mean, I don't know, there's more stores than there are parking spots. And I don't know how they do that magic, if there's just maybe they have some hidden parking that I don't know about, but how do they create that thriving downtown that we want, where you walk around rather than drive around? Because I've also done the math in terms of our parking regulations and what our downtown looks like in 10 years. And if we enforce those, for every new business that we're gonna get a big empty parking lot beside it. That's just the size and shape and depth of Fifth Avenue the way it is. So you'll have a store here and a big parking lot here, and a store here and a parking lot there. Certainly my vision, I think the vision laid out in the both in the ICSP and the official community plan is one where there's a thriving downtown where you just walk between these things. So I think we need to figure out how to make that magic happen, and have some sort of, I would offer that we need a strategy.
Exactly, that was gonna be my point, is that maybe we bring this bylaw to the table again. I mean, Jasper thrives very well with very little parking.
Yes.
You know, that's another
And a
example.
bylaw officer.
And
And 2-hour parking limits, yeah.
But, you know, I think we do need to bring this to the table for sure.
Yeah.
If I might jump in from a staff perspective, at a broader issue, I think those are great points. I think that CO and Yanciw and I have talked about at length, and avenues going forward might be to bring it forward, first of all, to the Advisory Planning Commission, in a month or two's time, after staff has had some time to think about it some more, and then following that to a committee of the whole discussion with council, and then that can provide two really good venues to debate it, discuss it, and then use those venues to then look to, okay, how can an amendment to the zoning bylaw take place when we do the OCP and zoning bylaw update in the years to come. But they're definitely, we have the tools in place to continue this conversation in the coming months.
I think so.
Yeah, thanks for framing that up.
I would like to, I know we're still open, we still got it on the table for discussion, but I would like to move forward with this development variance permit, hear what happens, you know, see what people have got to say, get those letters in, and so we're in a position to take action as opposed to not. That's my feeling.
I'll move that staff moves forward to prepare the draft permit.
Okay, great, thanks. Councillor Bullock? All in favor? Do we want to, do we need a motion to direct staff to bring this to the APC?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Salt, Councillor Blanchette, all in favor? Okay, so we're sort of trying to hold both things there. Development variance permit 0214, setbacks of the Lions Hall. The request here is that council authorize staff to prepare and issue the development variance permit. Yeah.
If I, again, might jump in from the staff perspective. So this development variance permit is in the second stages. It went to council 2 weeks ago for approval to prepare the draft permit and proceed with notifications. And as such, letters went out to surrounding tenants and property owners. One letter was received by staff very recently. I have it in front of me here. I'm going to make it public and the name public. And so Richard Correo, he's the tenant of 1110 Main Street.
No.
He's got three broad concerns, each that have some bearing. No. So I'll just go through those now. And Richard and I have talked at length today. So concern one, and actually maybe before I go into this, just the quick summary. The Lions Hall development variance permit is to request building a 1 and 11 foot addition, and they want a variance on the setbacks on both sides of that addition, not on the front of the property facing Main Street, but for the new addition to be within setbacks on both the interior property line, which is next to Richard's building, and the road that's in between the Lions Hall and the library.
Okay, and to clarify, the setbacks are required because the existing building is that wide?
The current setback requirements for P1 zoning are 6 meters on all sides. The current Lions Hall on the western side of the northwest side, which is the side closest to Richard 1110, is right on the property line, and the side closest to the road is within 3 feet or 1 meter.
Okay.
So the building is already substantially within setbacks.
Okay.
So concern one of Richards of 1110 Main Street is that the addition is proposing the mountain theme peak roof. And that he's got a number of concerns with that, but I expressed to him that the one that actually has legitimacy is the concern that if there's heavy snowfall on that roof, that being a peak roof, it would slide off the Lions Hall roof onto his property. The second concern raised, and it was more of a question, and is there a survey being done of where that property line exactly is and where the Lions Hall sits in relation to that property line? And there's speculation that there's dispute there on where the fences are and the line is. And given that it is so close to the line, that there was the question raised, does a survey need to be done before the development variance permit is approved? And the third concern raised was where would the clients of the Lions Hall, where would they park? Because if you're going 11 feet into the front, that potentially eats up some parking. That issue was a little bit easier to clarify today. And just for council's knowledge, clause or section 3 of Schedule B of our zoning bylaw indicates that buildings and uses that existed prior to the passing of the zoning bylaw in 2007 are exempt from the parking requirements so long as additions to those buildings are less than 10% of the total floor area of the current building, and the addition that Lions Hall is proposing is less than 10%, so the parking requirements are not really a concern at this time. They fit within our zoning bylaw. But as this letter came in at noon today, I've yet, and staff has yet to look into the surveying issue and to the snow issue.
Okay.
So that's the only comment received. And as staff, I'd recommend that council defer decision on this variance until these can be looked into.
Yeah. It is tough when buildings are right on the property line. Yeah, anyways, that's okay. But I think, yeah, we need to give staff a chance to address those issues and see how they fit and whether this can fit. Yeah, and some accommodation can be made or not. That's my feeling on it. Council?
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Okay. Right. All in favor? Okay, we're moving on to page 76 to 88, a street and mobile vendor bylaw 713, 2014. The recommendation is that we approve second reading of the street and mobile vendor bylaw 713. And I can't wait until we change it major and minor. that language around there. But
I promise I will do that between second and third.
Okay, that's great. Council, I wasn't here last meeting, but I did see the discussion on YouTube of your last meeting, and it was good. It was very, very good. Lots of great comments on it, and I think we're coming close to something that's going to work. So
I'll make a motion to approve second reading of the street vendor bylaw 713, 2014. And then second reading of the fees and charges.
Okay, we'll just do one at a time?
Oh, just one at a time?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
And then, okay, so we got the first and the seconder, and yeah. Councillor Salt?
Just a few corrections that I've caught the second reading to note.
Sure, yeah.
Point 5.3, corporate officer Hutchins. I believe this should be in the second line. It should be, we're saying street vendors, so it should be mobile vendors on 5.3. 5.2 refers to street vendors, and 5.3, I think the intent was to refer to mobile vendors.
Thank you.
And then I just have another query, point number 16. It says changes to a street vendor permit, but then 16.1 is referencing both street vendor and mobile vendor. So I'm just wanting to confirm, should the heading of 16 include mobile vendor as well, or is it one or the other, or is it to be both? Because they are two different.
I'll ensure that's clarified for third reading.
Okay. And, sorry, on Schedule A definitions, mobile vendor, where we're talking about 21 days, it's still referencing written 15. That should be changed to 21.
Yeah, cool. Just before we vote on this, I want to say one of the things that I think has strengthened this, bylaw is the consultation aspect with adjacent businesses and treating it kind of like a land use planning piece when it's on private property. I think that's actually a real strength and not a weakness, because it also gives the opportunity for council to reflect on things that aren't caught in this bylaw necessarily, but still substantially affect other businesses and commercial residents, whoever else is around. So that's one of the things that makes me feel pretty comfortable here. Yeah. Okay. So we've got it on the table. We've got some changes. I think friendly amendment to the, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we'll take a vote. All in favor? Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to fees and charges. Got a mover for that one? Councillor Blanchette, seconder. Councillor Bullock. Any changes, omissions? Okay.
So just also then wondering, under the fees 16.1, the transaction fee, if a mobile vendor has the opportunity to change, would they not also have to pay that fee, or are they exempt from it? Just a little clarification around that one as well.
Okay, so we'll just provide that for when we come back with that. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so no need to change the motion. All in favor? Okay, very good. Moving on to section 15, council reports. Who wants to go first? Anybody? Oh, Councillor Latimer.
I attended one meeting on behalf of council, and that was on the 13th with Varda. Very productive meeting as usual. Really nothing to report at this point. That's it.
Okay, I will go next. So February 17th, I went to the Northern Health big board meeting that they had at the Best Western. The Northern Health staff presented the walk around the world, and it went off really well, and it ended up being a huge photo shoot, and I've been emailing back and forth, and we're also on the Plan H website now, and the Northern Health website, so it's absolutely exploded. Then I had a VCTV meeting on the 20th, so I would like to scream out some kudos for Gord and Martin. So everybody's seen these posters around town, okay? And this is for the I Love Local Cable Awards. We have been shortlisted for 3 awards. So we need everybody to go on every day and vote from all possible places, your phone, your computer, okay? You go to the iHeartLocalCable.com, and we are shortlisted for entertainment programming, news and information, and community building and initiatives. So that's a really nice thing for our village. And kudos, guys, good work.
What do we win?
Well, it's not us. They win the bragging rights, and they have $1,000 to donate to a local charity of their choice. So, and it goes until May, so the end of May. So lots of time to throw in the votes. And that is it. Yes. No, we're also having our board meeting in our AGM in March 27th, thank you, at 7 o'clock. So if you're wanting to join the board, please come down at 7 o'clock in the classroom at the VCTV building. Okay.
I have nothing to report out on council the last 2 weeks, other than the meeting on Tuesday.
Cool. Nice for you.
I attended Trans Mountain Expansion Project Emergency Management Workshop in conjunction with the Village of Valemount Emergency Planning Committee. So it was a very good 3-hour discussion. What the emergency plan they have in place, working with our community, and we're considering the possibility of having one of their representatives participate on our emergency planning committee. So it was a good eye-opener just to see that what all they have in place, and that they're certainly, I mean, they're a big company, they've been around, they have their ducks in a row, but it's was able to give them some points too, you know, things that they hadn't considered that were raised as well, that they're going to make a point of going back and you know, when they do a review, to incorporate. So we'll continue working closely with them up until and during the pipeline, should it get approved, and they'll be working with our emergency planning committee. So that's great news there. And then I also attended the first CBT Community Initiatives Affected Area Program Adjudication Committee meeting. We welcomed 4 new committee members and kind of gave them the rundown. They got some history from other committee members, Arnold Weed and Bill Crisselbrink, that have been through the process for many years, so had some good history to give them, some background. And we're all anxiously awaiting seeing all the applications come in and taking part the public presentations and get the public feedback.
Friday deadline.
Friday at noon, right? February 28th, noon is the deadline for the application. So if you don't have yours in yet, get them in.
March 13th.
And March 13th is the public presentations. We'll be starting at 5:30 at the high school again with the open house concept, where you can walk around, talk to the proponents, get questions answered there. If you aren't able to stay for the whole presentation because you got young children, then you can still at least put in your input and your votes on the different projects at the open house. And that's it for me.
Great. On January 29th, I went down to Fernie for a CBT meeting. I actually went there a day early to go skiing, and I hurt myself really badly. But the good thing was I was able to make my meeting, which was awesome. I was at we had attended here a geopark designation for this area, kind of an interesting meeting. It's basically being, the idea is that there's some really, really interesting geography in Wells Gray National Park. Geography or geology?
Geology.
Geology, yeah. So weird things that aren't anywhere else in the world. And they're looking at developing a park. And to be cooperative and put in a good application, they're looking at partnering with other areas. And so there's some talk of considering special areas that are also in this area as well as part of the geopark, so we'd have different sort of units around. At any rate, the geopark designation is a big thing, and a lot of people visit these geopark designation areas just to see what's there. People who like rocks go there, and they're a lot of fun. So we want them to come here. But at any rate, it's really neat to be in the back seat for that one, where they've got the idea and are sort of running with it, and we're just being the supportive community. And that's a nice place to be in. We've seen lots of other communities put their support behind Valemount Glacier destinations and saying, hey, you know, that's a project that we should bring forward. It could benefit the whole region. And it's nice to be in that position for our partners to the south. I had a CBT Finance and Audit Committee. I just want to tell you all the meetings that I went to in great pain here. There was an announcement, a signing of the SIMP Resources, the SIMP First Nation signed a sort of letter of understanding with ACO Energy Solutions in Barrier, and it was just totally awesome. I was able to get down there. Sylvia and I drove. I had my leg up on a pillow in Sylvia's truck or whatever. It was nice to get the invite from Sam. It was kind of a late kind of deal from Sam from the Phillips from the SIMP Resources group. Said, hey, come on down. We got this big thing going on. Let's do it. And so we whipped down there because, you know, one of our strategies is developing that relationship. It's a very general agreement, but what was nice was to be able to touch base with SIMP and see where they're going and partially how they're at with how things are going for us. And it was good to get really good feedback that it appears things are moving really, really well with the Valemount Glacier destinations. So it was good. And yeah, Councillor Shelley Loring was there, somebody we met during our travels here, and she was really impressed that I managed to make it down there with the broken leg and stuff. A meeting that's just anonymous here. I got to meet with a sergeant where Shelley's been committed to sort of meeting with me once a month. We sort of fallen off that wagon for a little bit, but we got back together and just talked about where things are at in the community. There is a governance committee struck by the CBT that's kind of looking at how they CBT wants communities when they put forward the next director from a regional district, say in Valemount here, they don't necessarily want the mayor. They want the community to consider the needs of the CBT board and what they're lacking. They want it to be a more coordinated approach, and they're asking communities to take the brave step of maybe making the appointment a non-elected person if that person has the qualifications to provide the CBT what they need. This whole conversation makes me very uncomfortable, but it's interesting. You can really see it if you go down south in regional districts. Regional districts have a lot of people working as directors on different things, and sometimes it becomes kind of a reward for somebody that may not bring a particular set of strengths to the board, but they've been solid in other areas. They're like, okay, well, you do this, and then you do the CBT board. And it's usually an elected person. And sometimes they even change year to year or quite often because they want to rotate that around. And that's really hard for the CBT. It takes a long time to get up to speed. So the CBT is looking at being sort of a more cohesive organization that better plans its sort of turnover. And for a long time, the CBT board has been the same board. The current chair has been there for 16 years, not as chair, but he's been on the board for about 16 years. Greg Deck is the current chair of CBT. And really, it needs to get, the turnover needs to happen at the same time each year. And there needs to be sort of a learning curve and then getting people up to speed, because now the province only wants people on boards for 6 years. After 6 years, they don't find people are as productive and bring as much to the organization. So that's kind of an interesting piece. At any rate, it's one that I always get a little ruffled during those meetings because I feel like they're dissing me as a director. It's like, yeah, if we just do, luck of the draw, look what we get. I got to go to the Northern Health board meeting, which was really good, and I was able to report on my experience of Northern Health as a healthcare system. I mean, I went to the meeting with that, having experienced the health system for kind of the first time. I had a meeting with the broadband committee, and we're devising ways to essentially really make sure that people out in the country, I think we decided sort of within reason, that we make sure that their internet, their possibility of being connected to the internet is increasing, and they were not leaving people out in the Stone Ages. And it's kind of interesting sitting on that community as a mayor. I'm the only mayor there. The rest of the people are regional district chairs, but because of Valemount's situation, it wouldn't be appropriate for Art to be on this committee. Art Kane, the chair of the regional district of Fraser Fort George. But certainly right now where Valemount is with our potential, if you have a home in Valemount, it's very likely you could have 6 megabytes download and 1.5 megabytes upload speed. That's something that many people, of course, aren't even approaching. They're really, truly sort of in a dial-up world, or in a world where you wouldn't even want to be getting on the internet. So the focus of that committee is basically to bring people who are very underserved up, and I need to be careful to keep my own aspirations for super broadband under wraps, because it makes the rural directors really upset how far ahead we are of them. But it is a great learning curve for me, and it's going to help us, I think, be strategic in the future of what resources can we use to bring excellent broadband here. So it's going to get a regional strategy for us. Lastly, I think, was it yesterday we had the economic development video shoot?
Yes.
So the Ministry of Jobs, Tourism and Skills Training decided to profile Valemount. I think I spoke a little bit about this last meeting, or the last meeting I was at. And they're looking at communities that are doing interesting things in economic development. And I think, if I had to guess, I think one of the things that they like about Valemount is that we're kind of pounding the pavement and not kind of just asking the government to do stuff for us. If you start reading between the lines, I think that's kind of the thing that they like, that we're out there trying to make relationships with the CIMC, and with Alberto, and attracting projects and being open and doing a lot of the legwork and whatever. So that'll be interesting. The nice thing is we get to pitch Valemount as a community. And the best thing was they didn't want us to do sort of a cardboard approach to, we want the silver bullet economic development. We want a new giant mill here, which of course we do. Everybody does. Everybody wants like the single solution, but they actually let us talk about our desire for people who are moving here for lifestyle, lone eagles, some of the people in the audience here who are here clearly not for economic reasons. They're for reasons with bubbles in it and food creation reasons, whatever. At any rate, so it's really excellent that they're sort of letting us write our own story a little bit. And very, very briefly, sorry guys, I hurt myself on the ski hill and I went untreated until I came home, and I went into the health center during the walk-in clinic. So I waited there for 2 or 3 hours or whatever, but I felt sheepish because I went in right at the limit. And if you show up there at 11, they will see you. It doesn't matter how many people are there. If you show up by 11, they're committed to seeing you that day. So I went in there, saw me, and student nurse kind of looked, or student doctor, oh my God. Student doctor looked at me and sort of ran me through the paces, and then Dr. Markham came in, ran me through the paces, and said, it looks okay. It looks like it's getting better. I thought I was on the mend. I thought it was going to be better the next day. I was going to go skiing like later in the week. And then they said, let's have a little x-ray. I'll take a little peek. And they're like, oh my God, get on the bus, go to Prince George right now. I'm like, you're kidding. And they're like, no, you need to go like right now. There was a little bit of time lag in there, but anyways, on that night, my good friend Yanciw drove me to Prince George in the middle of the night, walked into the Prince George Hospital, which is like my nightmare. I don't do healthcare stuff. I definitely don't want to be going on to the Prince George Hospital on the Monday after the long weekend is when, anyways, we went there, and I think I was in and out of there in like 30 minutes or something like that with a CT scan in hand, and had surgery, woke up in the pediatric unit the next day. And I judged my experience. I talked to lots of other people who've been in the healthcare system, like also, well, I won't say their name because that's kind of whatever, privacy stuff, but there's another Valemount person there who'd actually just left in the ambulance just like when I was getting my x-ray done. And that dude was also in the pediatric unit. So maybe it's just people from Valemount, but this wasn't special mayor treatment. I mean, that institution runs so well. It was just incredible, the care that I received. And in the pediatric unit, they have like a bed for parents and stuff. And so like Laura got to stay in the same room, and it was like, oh my God, it was just really amazing. It's like a super hotel, a hotel with drugs, like Hotel California. No, but the care has been awesome, and we had an orthopedic surgeon reshape the top of the bottom bone of my leg. And okay, I just need to express, I've never experienced this before in my 13 years. I haven't been a part of the healthcare system. The surgeon redid my leg and took pictures of it, and then I sent it down to my sister, who's a GP in Vancouver, and she had the head of orthopedic surgery in Vancouver look at it, and he's like, oh, nice job, that's good. So just to say, the level of care and from the whole suite of people here I knew that these guys would be excellent. What I didn't realize was that the care at the other end, and especially later I had to go in to get tested for a blood clot because I took an 8-hour trip in the car to see the CIMC. That was kind of a deal. So we were a little worried that I had my leg down for too long. And I ended up taking the health bus, and I have to say, what a humane way to travel, really. I got onto the bus and I thought I would have to, like, you know, jimmy up the thing. The lady folds down the seats and makes me comfortable, and we all get on there, and it's just, yeah, so I'm raving about it, but wow, I'm just saying thanks for, you know, yeah, what a great system. So really happy with it. Motion to receive council reports? All in favor? Great. Okay. No new business. There's a list of council outstanding resolutions only for information. There's a calendar of events for February. Anything we need to know about that? If not, we'll just move past it, and we'll move into the public comment session. So public comments, we hope you speak for 2 minutes, speak to an item that's been on the agenda. And if it's sort of a routine nature or needs to be vetted through the front desk, you know, just do that there. This is not kind of the time for it. And also, we try not to have a back and forth. This is our time to hear, as frustrating as that is. We don't provide answers to the questions you ask here. We listen. So it's a good time to speak. Don't be frustrated by that. Going once.
No, ladies first.
Yeah, you do have to go over there. Gord, that's for you. We're not crazy about your grant, but we appreciate your mic.
Corey Marshall, 9101 Elm Street. Just a little bit of food for thought about the library situation. If we are spending that much money on the rink, that's great. Library might be the closest we have to an arts area. Heard that discussion on CBC today.
Okay.
Michael Lewis, 1275 4th Street. I'm going to take my 2 minutes for this, then sit down and get back up for the other part. So for the library, can I just take 4 then?
No.
For the library, I'd like to comment in that I see both sides of the argument. And as someone who's coming here with a young family, I would expect on both the part of the council and the part of the library when something like this is being discussed, that there's current information and statistics and supporting information of what's going on. Specifically from the village standpoint of what we have as the village, like we've brought young children. There's a lot of people with young children here. People with kids I haven't even met yet, but I keep hearing my daughter saying their names. I'm like, who is that? So it's there, it's kind of coming, you know, and you look at the library as a place for the arts. Winter, I'm from Texas, winter's kind of rough at times, minus 30 out. You can't really be outside doing a lot of that, so you got to be inside for your sporting activities. So we have the Canoe Valley Arena. For your learning activities, if they're not in school yet, a great place is the library. I agree with having a multi-use facility. I really think that having something that is future-based for this village is, you know, a little foresight in what's going to happen. Do we know? Do we want to build for, you know, the future in mind? Yes, we do. But what do we build for? Is there going to be huge growth because we're not going to have the silver bullet? We may or we may not. Or is there going to be a sustainment and we grow, you know, along the way a little bit? So I think it just behooves everybody when they walk in, when something like this is in front of the council, that if we're passionate about it, we seek out all sides of the information. And if the people supporting this are passionate about it, such as the library board, then that information is put forth in every effort to make sure that it's an educated decision that everybody's making. I really support a library because I spent time there when I was a kid, and I want my kids to spend time there because it's better than the boob tube or the 6 megabytes per second. Thanks.
You had a second item? You're just using the remaining 30 seconds of your
Hi, Michael Lewis, 1275 4th Avenue, also 1160 5th Avenue, Three Ranges Brewing Company. In reference to the parking variance permit for the brewing company, thank you very much for the support and the moving forward in that. I do say as a new business owner, and having just sat in front of a camera and talked about all the positive economic development benefits and the things as a business owner about coming to Valemount, I fully admit not being completely educated and having a lot of education by the staff on how this permit, or actually how this bylaw affects me in the parking situation. Based on the way everything is set up, it does need to be that walking situation, because the ability to have that parking, for me to create that parking, does not exist. And therefore, to have that enforced upon me is a penalty, which based on the amount of money I would have to pay would put me out of business. so it's definitely one of these things that needs to be looked at more as in how do we develop it where it's beneficial for everybody versus how do we not penalize businesses because they want to bring some kind of great economic boost to here. Because I promise you, I have beer going to Victoria this week. It's going to bring beer geeks. And I can't tell you how much money they have. A lot of them don't have a lot. But they're going to come. And it is. And we want to see a lot of businesses here. And a lot of the things I spoke to would be really beneficially affected by things that are a little better shaped to small business. Because silver bullet's great, but small business will sustain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll find something else.
No, you're good.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens of Valemount. Richard Corriveau, 1110 Main Street. I'd like to address the variance application for the Lions situation there. Ironically, I own the property next door. If one looks at the property line itself, council needs to be up to speed that the issues with the property itself originally are out of whack. There was an adjustment made on the property, the way the building was set. The bylaws for the parking are up to 2007. We're now in 2014. The lot specific should, in my view, be addressed to 2014. There are no property markers, so the setbacks of today that are current should be applied to that property. Because then this way here, the encroachment issue will not have to be dealt with again. Because there's a cost factor as being the property owner next door, and being that I am the property owner next door, then we will have to look at that on adjustments when it comes to footage, taxes, and what other paperwork may be involved in order to correct it. So rather than go into a correction mode, let's correct it now that we have that opportunity, and any other issues when it pertains to the Lions.
I just want to clarify a comment, just to hear you better,
sure.
not to debate you.
No.
When you say the setbacks applied now, you don't mean adjusting, do you mean moving the whole Lions building, or do you mean the new addition?
I'm talking specifically to the new addition because what is existing is existing.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a dollar factor, there's an energy factor, and on and on and on. But we won't go into there because I don't have the half hour of time. No, what is existing is one thing. But before an approved variance by council and all the people that are concerned gets approved, the setbacks should be implemented now. For the simple fact that this way here, it does not have to get revisited in time because of the original placement of that building. When you look at the property itself, there was a readjustment. Let's not do that again. I'm too busy, I'm too old. I don't have the energy to have to follow up on this here. Finances is not an issue. It is the energy and the time. I'm too busy, and I would prefer not to, being that I am the only one that is directly, affected by the situation. So before the variance does get passed, let's please get this here set in stone, not only on the footprint of the pad that they want to set, but also on the finishings of this here new, structure. I'm not opposed to having the building extended. There's no opposition there. But there are other concerns that are it's not possible to address at this time because it doesn't happen to fit with the agenda. Okay. So I do thank you for your time.
Okay.
And appreciate the, looking forward to the feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Clayton G, 1200 Juniper Street. Can I pose a question before a comment? Regarding the Lions Hall, did I hear somebody mention a peaked roof there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Well, with a peaked roof comes more overhang, of course, so you're gonna encroach on that property line a little more. But let's not forget that snow isn't the only pain in the butt. Fire protection is also an issue. So the closer that building becomes to Richard's property, the more fire protection is going to be an issue in the case of one building burning and getting into the next one. So that should be taken into consideration when thinking about that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Donalda, your turn. Wow.
Asking shows.
Donalda Beeson, 1100 Cypress Road. I wanted to thank you for your comments, Andrew, regarding the public library, because I don't think I had thought of that side of things. As someone that uses the public library very regularly, I'm there at least 3 days a week for various different things. I do see it as a cultural space or art space, and not only that, but a space that allows different groups to use it for free. And lots of the things that I've done there are groups that we volunteered to run for free, and groups where we don't have money to rent space, as much as it'd be beautiful to use the community hall, but we don't have the money for cleanup and stuff. So that space gets used quite a lot. I also use it for work. I take all my clients there for family supports, and it really, we do need more space there. And I do appreciate the vision of it being a more multi-purpose building. And I do like the idea of having it downtown. So I hope that the library is able to meet with you guys and discuss this further. I feel like I'm a little behind on this discussion, but I do appreciate you bringing up everything tonight, Andrew, regarding finances and what we need. But I just also wanted to put forth that I'm a user of that space, and I use it quite frequently for a lot of things, and I love it. And I do feel that the basement space that we end up using there that's all concrete is really not conducive to most of the things that we do there. It's not comfortable, and it would be great to use the library more. So thank you.
Thanks. Okay, that's great. So I think everybody's spoken, except for Corey and David. Oh, I guess.
Good.
No, it's good. You don't have to. Martin? We'll just go one by one. Gord? All right, so fair enough. So let's motion to receive public comment. Councillor Salt, Councillor Latimer, and all in favor? Great. Next is a notice of proceeding camera. So we are going to go in consideration of two items as per section 90 of the community charter. And yeah, I want a motion, but I want to also just say the nature of those items that are getting us there. So if we can just get to I have them right here.
Are you looking for which subsections, Your Worship?
Yeah, not the subsections. I'll just, it's going to be land and labor. Councillor Salt, Councillor Blanchette, all in favor?
Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming.